Hello, everyone, and welcome back. As always, I am your girl, Candy Washington. And before we dive into today's latest story, which is Andy Cohen feeling like they may have effed up when it came to the Rhony reboot, be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss when we go live. And also be sure to share this with a friend because a kiki is always better with community. Check out the description box below, and also be sure to check out our love collection, our merch. It's all linked below. So with that, let's dive right on in. So apparently, Andy Cohen is having some major regrets when it comes to how they have handled the reboot of The Real Housewives of New York City. So as we know, they decided to split the franchise. There is The Real Housewives of New York Legacy. That's not the real name of the show. That's sort of like the code name that they use, while producing the show. And that was supposed to be with, the OGs, like the Sonias and Kelly Ben Simone and Luann and all of those people, right? So it's almost like, the legacy crew. And I believe that was supposed to air on Peacock. And then then they were going to do the Real House of New York reboot, which would be a whole new cast of characters, a whole new cast of ladies, and that was going to air on Bravo. So apparently with the reboot, they wanted more diversity, they wanted younger, fresher women, this, that, and the third, right? Also, one of the main women that they cast for the reboot of The Real Housewives of New York City, she was also filming and testing for The Real Housewives of Dallas, which seems really inauthentic to me. If you have someone who is living in Dallas and based in Dallas, and then all of a sudden The Real Housewives of Dallas goes on pause, and then you sort of like shift her to New York, that to me, I'm kind of like the work is showing. That doesn't really make a lot of sense. It loses its authenticity. And it also, to me, it's sloppy and it's lazy. Find women who are in New York, who have some type of actual connection, who are actually friends, to have that organic chemistry that makes the franchises work. Do all of them have to be besties? No, a couple of them do. A couple of them have to really be besties. And then they have to kind of know each other, whether it's socially, whether it's, at parties, whether it's by, marriage. Maybe it's like two sisters-in-laws. Think about, Teresa and Melissa and everything, right? But there has to be some true common denominator that connects all the women. So what they're saying that's happening with the Rhony reboot is that it's in shambles. Allegedly, 3 of the women have already dropped out of filming, or they want to, maybe not do it anymore. I don't know. They're saying it's a mess. It's not translating. It's not really reading the way that they need the Real Housewives to read. They're thinking of, instead of calling it, the Real Housewives of New York, maybe they will, call it the Real Girlfriends in New York. But I don't know how that's going to work, because we have the Real Girlfriends in Paris, but these are women who are in their 20s. One is in her early 30s. The majority of them are single, and none of them have children. And they're really just, sort of finding their way in the world. And it's a much more younger demographic, The women who they've reportedly cast for the Real House of New York reboot seems to be in that middle space. They don't seem to fit to me to be a girlfriends in New York, but they also don't seem to fit to me to be the Real Housewives of New York. They're sort of in that middle space in life, right? Where you're not exactly at Luann, Sonia, Ramona, what do you call it? Who are the other ones? You know what I mean? Space in life. But you're kind of in that middle. It's kind of like you're in New York. You're late 30s, mid 40s, you're married, you have a couple of kids, you're kind of in that space in life. You're not exactly the girlfriends, but you're not exactly sort of, your kids are grown and you're and this is your second act, and you're just having fun and you have the money and you're dipping it and doing it, sort of in that. They're kind of in this middle way. So I think that's really what the disconnect is. I think that's why it's not working. One, the cast that they got for the Real Housewives of New York reboot, they're not friends. There's no true organic chemistry between the women. There's no history between them. So it's not landing. Also, I don't think that they picked the right women who are in the right stage in life for a Real Housewives of New York, if that makes sense. Like, I think that sort of stage in life worked for the Real Housewives of Dallas. They were kind of in that stage in life, mid 30s to mid 40s. You know, they have a couple of kids, they're married, whatever. It made sense over there. But I don't think it's translating for the Real Housewives of New York, given, you know, how we think of New York. And I also think that the producers misunderstood the assignment. I think in general, the producers at Bravo need to take a diversity course and an inclusion course, because I don't think that they actually understand what diversity and inclusion actually means. They totally missed the mark with Ebony, and we saw how that went. I'm not saying Ebony isn't great and amazing, but I think they missed the mark with and I think they missed the mark because I think what they're doing is diversity just means add a person of color. I think that's what they think it means. Diversity just means add in somebody who's Black, add in somebody who's Asian, add in somebody who's blah, 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 blah. I think they think that's what diversity is, just add a person of color. But they don't actually do the work to figure out, how can we add people of color? How can we add diversity that's authentic and that has organic chemistry and that's not fake and forced and phony? Like, if they would have created a cast of, you know, women probably in their mid to late 40s, early 50s, who were friends with, you know, diverse people, who actually had a history together, who actually really had money, I think that would have worked. But just to say, let's just see if we can cast diverse people, let's just find people of color, let's find, you know, women in their 30s being influencers, like, which is basically what all these women were, essentially actors, models, influencers. It doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. It's not what we want. So I get it that the reboot is kind of a mess. Now, according to Bravo and Cocktails, they are saying that the rhony tea is 100% true. Bravo are majorly regretting their decision regarding rhony. Andy watched the first 2 episodes of Lou and Sonya's spinoff, allegedly titled Real Housewives of New York, Luann and Sonya Take Benton, and told a producer, "We effed up big time. Meetings are being held to see how they can go forward with the 2 shows. Andy wants rhony back to its old form, no legacy involved." Okay, so what I take from this is Sonya and Luann are gold. They're gold. They're like, you know what I mean? They're amazing together. There's sort of these 2 haphazard women, you know, doing it, having fun, you know, and they're great. They're gold. I get it. That's great. I think their spinoff is going to be really, really good. When Andy says he wanted to go back to old rhony, I get what he's saying. I don't think it's necessarily go back to the old 100% cast, because we know Ramona's pretty much out, given the backlash that she's received from the Black community, Jewish community, LGBTQIA community. She was very, very problematic and had a lot of issues going on. She didn't want to answer to it at the reunion. Bravo didn't want to answer to it, so they sort of scrapped that reunion, right? So to me, Ramona's kind of on the outs right now. She didn't really land on the Real Housewives Ultimate Girls trip, so good luck with your real estate license, Ramona. But what I think is, it's like I was saying, when it comes to the Real Housewives of New York, when we say we want diversity and inclusion, we're not saying we just want a gratuitous Black person on the show, a gratuitous Indian person on the show, a gratuitous whatever person on the show. We're saying we want you to actually do your job and find a diverse cast that actually authentically makes sense and have organic chemistry. You're not going to sit here and tell me that you can't find people in New York City that have a diverse group of friends. That's just not the case. You have to be able to find a rich white woman who hangs out with the rich black woman, who hangs out with the rich Indian woman, who hangs out with the rich Jewish woman, who hangs out with the rich Asian women. Like, the New York City is such a melting pot. So we don't want gratuitous diversity, and that's why it's not landing. That's why it's not working. We don't want gratuitous diversity. We want authentic diversity. I don't know what's going on with Bravo. I don't know who these producers are. I don't know who these casting people are. They're just not understanding what diversity actually means. And we're not looking for you to appease us. We're looking for you to represent and reflect authentically what diverse people have to offer in a genuine way. That's why you had the situation happen at with Ebony. Ebony in and of herself is great, but she was gratuitous. They're like, oh, she's a black person, let's drop her in rhony. She didn't know any of the girls. You pretended like she knew Leanne, and she didn't actually, Leah. She didn't actually know Leah at all. They weren't actually friends. Turns out Leah is as conservative as it gets behind the scenes, quiet as it's kept. Ebony's probably conservative too. She did work for Fox News, but you see what I'm saying. They try to act like Leah was so woke when she really wasn't. Where it does work, okay? Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Garcelle is a freaking star on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And you want to know why it works with Garcelle, but it doesn't work with Ebony? Again, Ebony was the only black person on that cast. Garcelle was the only black woman on that cast. Full-time diamond holder. The reason why it works with Garcelle is because it's not gratuitous. It's not trying to appease us. Garcelle really is in that world. She's genuinely friends with Kathy Hilton. She's known Rinna for years and decades. She's actually interesting. She talks about her race when it actually makes sense, when it's a part of a lived experience, when it actually is involved with her interactions with her co-stars. Ebony, I really like her, but every scene did not have to be a Black history lesson. We wanted to see you, Ebony, not you, the Black history teacher. You know what I mean? It's like, you are Black history, you are Black future, you are Black presence. Live through yourself. And that's what Garcelle does. She shows up every time as this excellent Black woman, and she doesn't have to drive it down our throats with it. She just is it. And she's a star, and she is that girl, and she's the #1 person on that show right now. And that's why it works. There's organic chemistry with Garcelle. She shows up as herself. She made it a point not to be tokenized. She's like, I'm not going to be the token Black girl in Beverly Hills. I'm going to show up as myself and show out. She actually has friendships. She actually knows these people. Her and Sutton are truly friends, and you see that through and through. They're truly friends. It's organic and it's authentic, right? So that's why it works with Garcelle, but it's not working with the rhony reboot. It didn't work with Ebony. It was a shit show with Dr. Moon on The Real Housewives of Dallas, and now they're on a pause, right? I loved Tiffany Moon 100%, but those women were not ready for true diversity. And that was very clear and very, very evident. Those women were not ready for true diversity. Okay? But I want to know what you guys think. Put it down in the comment box below. Do you think Bravo really did a misstep, that they just don't understand what diversity and inclusion actually are? Like, they need to do some type of course led by someone who's actually really educated, so they understand that diversity and inclusion doesn't just mean hire a person of color and check a box, that they actually have to do their work. They actually have to cast and find interesting people who truly are friends, who have organic chemistry. Of course, Luann and Sonya's spinoff is gonna work. They're amazing. They're great. They're really funny together. They're genuinely friends. They're just a good time. They're just a good kiki. I don't think that the Real Housewives of New York needed diverse influencer models in their 30s and 40s. I think the Real Housewives of New York needed to keep some of the OGs, like a Sonia, like a Luann, but then also find people who are genuinely friends, who are diverse to add to the cast, who have an organic chemistry. So when we, the audience, says we need diversity, they don't just hear, just find a person of color and plop them on the show. That's where I think Bravo is going wrong. And that's why I think Andy Cohen is like scrambling. And as we all know, BravoCon is right around the corner. They're very concerned about, what shows, what shows they're gonna announce. Can they even announce the rhony reboot? What about rhony Legacy? What's going on there? So I want to know what you guys think. Put it down below. What do you think is going to happen with the Real Housewives of New York? It's a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess. But until next time, everybody, you know what to do. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss it when we go live. Also, be sure to share this with a friend because a kiki is always better with community. Check out our merchandise below, the Love Collection, and everything in the description box. Until next time, everyone, take care of yourself and each other. Love you. Bye.
Welcome to Sugar Pills, a practical guide to self-care, where your host, writer, actor, and producer Candy Washington helps you live a more joyful life with a cheeky dash of pop culture news. Be sure to subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and join the conversation on Instagram @Candy Washington. Let's go!